Hey everyone, happy Halloween. We are in the Halloween season. We're going to keep this rolling. We had some kind of obscure cases. This one, you guys might be aware of this one.
Yes, this is the Charles Manson Cult and Chaos. Stay tuned and watch.
Come on back.
Hey man, peace and love.
You have the right idea for this next case we are covering. Today we are going to talk about cult and chaos for Charles Manson.
Right on.
She's
Right
doing
on.
Agent Wells has really been bothering Agent Owens. Agent Owens is the woman, and the man is Agent Wells, and she's been doing a lot lately. Anyhow, welcome. Let's introduce ourselves.
Yes, it's your girl Shiva.
And I'm Ed. This is Studio 70, and they are Crime Force, our AI created team, and they do AI tools to help investigate and bring the information to us in any informative way. So, before we get started,
this is for education, entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research and always be kind to everyone, everywhere.
Yes, that's a great thing. And today we're going to talk about Charles Manson, not Marilyn Manson. That's the artist. And the reason why we did this one, because we were trying for this year for Halloween, we weren't trying to do like a lot of popular ones. But the reason why we're doing this one is because in the new generation, like when I was growing up, Charles Manson was still in jail. But for the younger generation, or the newer generation, they don't really know much about Charles Manson.
They don't know anything about Charles Manson.
No, so we want to get into it. So Crime Force, our AI investigation team, as I mentioned, is going to start off with some background on this. So here we go.
The Manson murders of 1969 were a series of brutal unalivings orchestrated by Charles Manson, the leader of the cult-like group known as the Manson family. These murders, which shocked the world, were carried out primarily on the nights of August 8th to 9th and August 9th to 10th, 1969, in Los Angeles, California. Charles Millis Manson was born on November 12, 1934, in Cincinnati, Ohio. His mother, Kathleen Maddox, was a 16-year-old runaway and a heavy drinker. His biological father, a transient laborer named Colonel Walker Henderson Scott Sr., abandoned them before Manson was born. Manson's early years were marked by neglect and instability. His mother was arrested multiple times, and he was often placed in foster homes and reform schools. By age 9, he had already begun committing petty crimes, including burglary and auto theft. Over the years, he was repeatedly incarcerated, spending much of his youth in juvenile detention centers. By the time he was released from Terminal Island Prison in 1967 at age 32, Manson had spent more than half his life behind bars. While in prison, he studied psychology, hypnotism, and philosophy, and developed manipulative techniques that he would later use to control his followers. In the late 1960s, he gathered a following of disaffected young people, mostly women, in California. The Manson family was a quasi-commune that lived primarily at Spahn Ranch, a former movie set northwest of Los Angeles. Manson preached apocalyptic, pseudo-religious ideas, heavily influenced by his misinterpretation of the Beatles' White Album, particularly the song Helter Skelter, which he believed predicted a coming race war. Manson convinced his followers that they needed to initiate this race war by committing violent murders and framing black people for them.
Oh, wow.
His ideology was a twisted mix of racial paranoia, biblical prophecy, and personal grievances against the entertainment industry.
You'll understand why about the entertainment industry later.
Yeah, this is an interesting one.
So
what year was he, Charles Manson, born again?
He was probably born around 1930, 32, somewhere in there, because she said he was 32 at 67, so maybe 1935 then. Yeah. So, yeah, this goes back a little ways. But he's the one that put the swastika tattoo in the middle of his head. All right, let's get into the murders.
We are going to discuss two specific murders that occurred in August of 1969. The Tate murders, August 8th to 9th, 1969. On the night of August 8, 1969, Manson ordered 4 of his followers, Charles Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian, to go to 10050 Cielo Drive in Benedict Canyon, a luxurious home rented by actress Sharon Tate and her husband, film director Roman Polanski, who was in Europe at the
They're
time.
both popular at the time.
Victims
very
at
popular
Cielo
in their day.
Drive. Sharon Tate, 26, a rising actress, 8 months pregnant.
Oh, wow.
Jay Sebring, 35, a celebrity hairstylist and Tate's ex-boyfriend. Abigail Folger, 25, heiress to the Folger coffee fortune. Wojciech Frykowski, 32, a Polish screenwriter and Folger's boyfriend. Stephen Parent, 18, a friend of the house's caretaker, visiting that night. Not onto the attack. Tex Watson, armed with a gun and a knife, led the break-in. They first encountered Stephen Parent, who was leaving the guest house in his car. Watson shot him 4 times, unaliving him instantly. The killers entered the house and rounded up the residents. Jay Sebring protested their treatment of Tate and was shot and stabbed to death. Abigail Folger and Wojciech Frykowski attempted to escape but were brutally stabbed multiple times. Sharon Tate, who pleaded for her life and that of her unborn baby, was mercilessly stabbed 16 times by Susan Atkins and Tex Watson. Before leaving, Atkins smeared the word pig in Tate's blood on the front door. Now on to the LaBianca murders, August 9th to 10th, 1969. The following night, Manson personally accompanied the killers to the home of Leno and Rosemary LaBianca in Los Feliz, a wealthy neighborhood of Los Angeles. Victims at the LaBianca home. Leno LaBianca, 44, owner of a supermarket chain. Rosemary LaBianca, 38, his wife. Now for the attack. Manson entered the house first, tied up the couple, and reassured them that they would not be harmed. He then left, instructing Tex Watson, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Leslie Van Houten to unalive them. Watson stabbed Leno LaBianca multiple times, carving the word war into his stomach.
Whoa.
Rosemary was stabbed 41 times by Krenwinkel and Van Houten.
Like, why so many?
The killers wrote "Death to Pigs," "Rise," and "Helter Skelter," misspelled, in blood on the walls and refrigerator.
He didn't get caught yet for that. Crazy.
But that's good because we're getting into the aftermath and investigation.
We have to find
But
out.
these are crazy. I'm sure drugs obviously played in part of this, but mental issues too. What kind of whack? I don't want to start this. This is crazy. But here you go.
The LAPD initially failed to link the Tate and LaBianca murders.
See?
However, in October 1969, Manson and his followers were arrested at their hideout at Barker Ranch in Death Valley for unrelated car thefts. The case finally broke when Susan Atkins, while in jail on separate charges, confessed to a cellmate about her involvement in the Tate murders. Trial and convictions. The trial began in June 1970, with Charles Manson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Leslie Van Houten as primary defendants. Tex Watson was tried separately in 1971. Manson and his followers were convicted of multiple counts of murder in January 1971. They were all sentenced to death, but their sentences were commuted to life in prison when California abolished the death penalty in 1972. Legacy and cultural impact. The murders symbolized the end of the 1960s counterculture movement, as they revealed the dark side of the hippie era.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
The case remains one of the most infamous in American history, inspiring books, movies, and endless speculation. Charles Manson died in prison on November 19, 2017, at the age of 83. The Manson murders remain a chilling reminder of how manipulation and ideology can turn followers into killers.
Yeah, that's true.
So why did Manson do all this? The
Yeah.
question came in. So let's
I would like to know why did he do this. And I think it could be something with the
Number
music
1,
thing.
the Helter Skelter Prophecy, Race War Delusion. One of Manson's primary motivations was his belief in helter-skelter, a term he took from the Beatles' White Album.
See?
He was convinced that a race war between black and white people was imminent and that he and his followers, the Manson family, were destined to lead the survivors after chaos ensued. Manson preached that black people would rise up and overthrow white society, but because he saw them as incapable of leadership, he believed they would eventually turn to him to rule over them. He told his followers they needed to start the war themselves by committing brutal murders and framing black people, hoping the violence would trigger widespread panic. He believed that the family would hide in Death Valley during the war and emerge as rulers of the New World. While this apocalyptic vision was central to Manson's ideology, it's likely he didn't believe it entirely himself. He used it more as a tool to control his followers, keeping them obedient and willing to unalive for him. Number 2, revenge on Hollywood and personal grudges. Manson harbored deep resentment toward the Hollywood music industry, which had rejected his musical ambitions.
There you go. That's part
His
of it.
connections to Beach Boys drummer Dennis Wilson and producer Terry Melcher, Doris Day's son, had given him hope that he could land a record deal. Terry Melcher, who once lived at 10050 Cielo Drive, where the Tate murders took place, rejected Manson's music. Manson may have sent his
Let me check
followers
them
there
out of
out of
music.
anger, thinking Melcher still lived there. He saw the rich and famous as symbols of a corrupt, elitist society that deserved to be destroyed. Some speculate that he had a grudge against Sharon Tate's social circle, believing they represented the kind of people who had mocked and dismissed him. While the official story ties the murders to his helter-skelter beliefs, there's no doubt that Manson wanted revenge on the Hollywood elite who had ignored him. Number 3, total control over his followers. Manson
He
saw
definitely had
himself
that.
as a messianic leader, demanding total obedience and devotion from his followers. He convinced them that he was the reincarnation of Jesus Christ and that his word was divine law. They were part of a special group chosen to survive the coming apocalypse. Unaliving on his behalf was an act of loyalty, and that any hesitation was a sign of weakness or doubt in his vision. By ordering the murders, he tested his followers' loyalty, ensuring that they were completely under his control. Number 4, keeping his cult isolated and fearful. By leading his followers into violent, irreversible crimes, Manson ensured they could never leave him. After participating in murder, his followers would feel trapped, knowing they had crossed a line that made it nearly impossible to return to normal society. He constantly manipulated them with fear, making them believe that if they disobeyed him, they would face dire consequences. This method of mental conditioning and coercion is common in cults, where leaders entrap
I remember
followers by
that.
forcing them into crimes or extreme actions, making escape feel impossible. And lastly, number 5, a lust for chaos and violence. Beyond his apocalyptic beliefs and personal grudges, Manson simply thrived on chaos and destruction. He was a career criminal who had spent most of his life behind bars and knew nothing but violence. He enjoyed playing mind games, creating paranoia and hysteria among his followers. The brutal, theatrical nature of the murders, stabbing victims dozens of times, writing messages in blood, suggests that he wanted to send a message of terror to society. While Manson didn't physically unalive anyone himself, he manipulated others into doing his dirty work, showing no remorse and enjoying the power he held over life and death.
Oh, well, thank you, Crying Force.
Thank
That
you.
was really good. That last part was very informative. Very, very,
Right.
very.
And this is definitely disturbing, right? This is definitely cult and chaos. I have to agree with that. But the problem is that, first of all, I have a lot of issues here, especially it's like, oh, we're going to kill. How does he get so much power? He didn't even have, usually money brings power. The guy was broke. I mean, he didn't have money.
Well, I'll tell you what. And we covered enough of these cases, like David Koresh and others. The thing of it is, even today, and you can see it with these catfish schemes too. There are a lot of people that are very susceptible and want to be a part of something. And if you get them in the right circumstances, in this case, especially with drugs and being young and all that stuff, and you feel powerful, You can't. For us, it's very hard to understand. And the only thing I didn't ask Crime Force to do, or I should have added it later, is you should see the videos of this guy. So first I thought it was mostly all the drugs that he acts weird. Oh, no. There are many, many, many interviews. So you guys go on YouTube and look for Charles Manson interviews, like later on life. He's all like, man, I could be the devil and I could be the angel. He talks all weird like that. And he goes, ooh. He does like all this weird. You guys see it. We'll watch it afterwards. He does all like, I could take you out. He talks just like that. It's really freaky, scary. So
Okay, he belongs in a psych ward. Okay.
Yeah, he's nuts.
But this is what I don't understand as well. I mean, I know. I guess he was still alive. This guy lived until in his
83.
80s. In his 80s. I mean, we spent taxpayers' dollars on this guy, and unfortunately, you know,
start a race war in which he believed that the black people were gonna.
Decline, like everybody else want to blame us. Blame it on us.
It doesn't make any sense, too. Now think about this. Okay, so you guys are going to kill all the people that look like me, but at the end, you're going to want somebody who looks like me to rule you all. It doesn't make any sense.
But I'm glad he killed. I mean, he shouldn't have killed anyone.
No,
I mean, he didn't even kill anyone. I think he just had them.
But he had them do it.
Yeah.
And what was interesting, and I'm sure you caught it. I wasn't sure, but he might have went to the house thinking that producer, that record music guy was there and try to get some revenge. But he's probably
because he wanted to. He wanted a record deal. Yeah. Imagine all these people out here, they want record deals.
Just like David Koresh, too. That was another similarity a little bit.
Definitely.
And they both thought they were Jesus again. It's crazy.
David Koresh was, unfortunately, he was probably intelligent, too. I mean, if you have, like you said, the vulnerable, there's always people out there that you can definitely that gravitates to this type of behavior. And it's like, that's all they need, somebody to feed them this false information. That's why I said, when I start this show, that's what I said, educate yourself, do your own research. And I mean it. You need to do your own research, even with these crazy people like that. I mean, Charles Manson, really, you need to do your own research.
And I should have had you watch one of the videos before this, but we'll watch after. You guys see it. He's just out of there.
I believe you.
But hey, guys, thank you so much. Again, Halloween is getting closer and closer. About a week or so. So we are going to have one more. I think after this one, it's going to be zombie crimes. You got to check that out.
Oh.
And please subscribe. Please come back and watch. I really appreciate it. And final words?
Yes, thank you. And Studio 70.
Studio 70. Boo.
Crime Force.